The vlogs are back. I feel like I never film when I'm in San Jose. Today we're doing a little bit of a mommy takes her daughter to work day. My dog's here with me. And we're gonna make a pit stop to buy some yarn, which I'll show you what it's for later. We got a salad and some halal chicken. Oh my gosh, and they have boba here. I don't think I should have given it to pasta. Mmm. Yarn. Right up to the side of my mountain until you reach my peak, baby, peak. And reach right into the bottom of my mountain. I want to play in your peak, baby. Then dip me underway. You know my voice, hold me till I scream and watch me over. Let's do a little haul, shall we? By the way, guys, I got really into making rugs this year. So yeah, I got some felt for the rug backing and then some yarn to finish up the current project I'm working on. And as you can see, I'm making this little strawberry guy. This is the front, but I need to trim it still. Okay, so in about 5 minutes, I'm going to hop on a Zoom call with a fellow incoming medical student, and we're working on a collab together. We're just gonna be talking and brainstorming ideas for that. Later, we can talk about how I'm feeling about starting medical school, what I'm doing to prepare. Hint, the answer is pretty much nothing besides like having to do onboarding stuff. Hey Morgan, how's it going?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing well. Honestly, moving in kind of last minute, like the week before classes start, but it's fine. Right now, I'm just working on some graphics for Collab Culture, which is my essay reviewing / advising platform that I created that provides free essay reviewing for low-income and first-gen students and folks without health careers advising at their schools. My team at Collab Culture and I are reviewing secondary essays right now, so if you would be interested in receiving help for that, I will leave the link in the description. Collab Culture has been a passion project of mine since I think sophomore year of college, and I really love being able to connect with my viewers and be able to help out in their college or their medical school application journeys. So check it out, it's definitely a labor of love. Yay, all done. Here are the final graphics. I've had some people ask me like, what are you doing to prepare academically or mentally for medical school? And to be honest, I am just completely relaxing as much as I can. I feel like I'm so conditioned to constantly be working on something and filling my time with something that is like productive that it's hard for me to relax, and I'm trying to learn how to be better at that. I've also been reading a book called, I think, Designing Your Life, and one of the exercises they have you do is to keep track of activities during your day that are engaging and energizing. I really realized that like working on YouTube, working on Collab Culture are things I really enjoy and that energize me. So I'm trying to keep on top of that so I'll continue when I'm in medical school. For the past like few weeks, I've just been preparing to move and stuff. I've been putting off buying renter's insurance and setting up my electricity. Very like young adult figuring things out. I finally did it and I feel like a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I also wanted to answer some questions in this video that you submitted me through Instagram, so I'm gonna pull that up right now. I got my emotional support water bottle. This is kind of a motley of questions about college, medical school, life updates, etc. I think the majority of questions are, what medical school will you be going to? I'm going to be making a separate video, I think, on all of my medical school decisions. I will say I will not be staying in California. I'm going to be moving to another part of the US, so stay tuned. First question is, do you have any regrets from your college experience? I think my biggest regret is not making more of an effort to reach out to people, whether they're people in my class, professors, just people I'm interested in learning more about how they got to where they are in terms of their career, finding out their interests. College is such a unique opportunity to quote network, but really just to get to know people and to kind of expand your worldview, to give yourself more options for what you can see yourself doing in the future. Someone said, just sending love, thank you. How did you grow as a person at Brown? I would say this is not specific to Brown, but going to a university that's out of state, I had to become a lot more independent and self-reliant, and I'm really glad that I was able to have that experience. I now know about myself that no matter where I go, I can always start from scratch, make new friends. I'm willing to go on that adventure. Kind of related to that, was it difficult to make friends? Oh my gosh, yes. Of course, it's like difficult to make friends when you go somewhere where you don't know anyone. And I remember my first month at Brown, I called home like crying all the time. I feel like my friends and my parents like really distinctly remember this period where I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna have any friends here, like I don't know anyone, I feel so like isolated. And I remember being on the phone with my mom one day, and literally the next day I met like two of my best friends that I'm still friends with to this day. They've been in the videos, Michelle and Jenny, what's up? So yeah, the universe works in mysterious ways, but just hang in there, it definitely takes time. And I'm gonna need the advice too in the coming weeks. Let's see, was Brown your first choice? I actually wanted to apply to Brown early decision, so it was my first choice, but I ended up applying regular decision. And I'm glad because it gave me more time to work on my application and to feel confident in the essays that I was submitting. Do you regret going to Brown? I had a great Brown experience. Obviously it was cut kind of short by the pandemic, but don't regret it at all, especially given the resources and the network I had access to during my time there. Around how many hours studying per week did you get? This definitely depended on what classes I was taking. I would say like at my busiest times, like before an exam, I would be studying like most of the day, but other times there were periods where I studied for like maybe like 1 to 2 hours a day, sometimes just didn't do any work at all. I think college for me was extremely flexible in sort of planning my own day around my schedule, and so I could do lectures remotely, I could like do my extracurriculars and schedule like all of my classes on like specific days of the week and have like Fridays free, for example. Everyone's schedule looks kind of different, and it doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing as long as it's working for you. How you balance pre-med / academics plus social life at college. Do your due diligence in making sure that your course load is manageable. I think that sets you up for success. Also, focusing less on the quantity of activities that you're pursuing and more on the quality. So only invest time in things that you're really passionate about. And so litmus test that I always tell people to use is, if someone asks you what you find meaningful about a certain activity, are you able to provide a thoughtful answer? And if you can't, then that's probably something that you shouldn't commit time to. I chose just a few things that I was really passionate about and wanted to work on, and so that would be like maybe some clinical experience, my research, and then doing school, and then having like maybe one leadership position that I was working on at a time. I ended up having a lot of free time in college just to like hang out, you know, get dinner with friends. I think it's definitely manageable. By no means do you ever have to pull an all-nighter to do well in college. Scheduling is going to look different for everyone. For example, if you're a D1 athlete, that's of course going to take up a really big chunk of your time. Or if you want to work while you're also in school, these are things to consider. And so if you already have those responsibilities, just make sure that you're considering that when you're taking on other leadership positions and making sure you're able to commit before you get too deep into the semester and realize that you have to quit some things. That being said, another thing that I learned while in college is that there's no shame in quitting something if you realize that you cannot dedicate your time to it. In fact, if you stay and you aren't fulfilling your role, you are doing a disservice to other people within that organization. How did you plan your course load, summers, internships, research positions, etc.? I have a video on course planning. I made like a 4-year plan, and you can look at that template. I'll link it up there in the cards. Otherwise, I would say kind of take it as you go. Whenever you're like applying for grad school, you can always find a way to connect the dots in hindsight and really listen to yourself if you realize that something that used to interest you is not something that you really enjoy anymore. What courses were you taking at Brown for pre-med? If you look at like Brown's health career advising website, everyone has to kind of take the same courses more or less for pre-med requirements. But if you're interested in a video of like my entire transcript of like classes that I took while at Brown, leave a comment down below and I can make that video. What made you realize you wanted to be pre-med? I think it came down to I wanted a career that really aligned with my values of serving others in a way that is very tangible and interpersonal. And I know there's a lot of fields where you can do that, but I think medicine is just a really great way to do that, especially because I was interested at first in surgery, and there's truly no other field that can mimic the kind of work that is done in a surgical operating room. Yeah, I think I would say like my early clinical exposure, and also just process elimination, exploring a lot of other fields, whether it was like, you know, taking an econ class and then dropping it because I realized I didn't like it, to exploring computer science, and a bunch of other things. I also think medicine's awesome because I have a really strong interest in public health as well, and it's not like I have to stop being interested in public health in order to do medicine. I think medicine's inherently pretty interdisciplinary and connects a lot of like biotech and technology at large, public health, and like social determinants of health. So yeah, that was a kind of long-winded answer. Do you need to be good at math to be pre-med? Absolutely not. The highest level of math I took was like the equivalent of calculus BC. What did you do in the time after graduating Brown and starting medical school? I have a whole video on my gap year experience, and so you can check that video out here or maybe here. How long on average did you take per school to pre-write secondaries? So secondaries are like supplemental essays that you send to medical schools. On average, I spent like around 2 weeks. Some schools I submitted a lot faster, some schools I took a lot longer. It also kind of just depended on my priorities. So is this a school that I really want to go to? I'm going to focus on that secondary first before I submit the other ones. Someone asked me, are you scared to go to medical school? I think going into this process, I had always anticipated that, you know, I would get my medical school decision and just be over the moon, so excited to start medical school. But the reality is, like, starting medical school and committing to this journey to becoming a doctor is a very big time and financial investment. So it's kind of a mixture of excitement, nervousness, but I am still pretty excited. There are definitely some things that I'm like a little anxious about in terms of like getting back into studying, meeting new friends, moving to a new state. These are all things that can be really scary. And yeah, I'm just trying to like validate that I can have multiple conflicting emotions at the same time. What kind of doctor do you hope to be? That is a great question. At this point, I'm not sure, but I am interested in surgical specialties, especially cardiothoracic surgery. We'll see what I think in 2 to 3 years. What if I have research but no publications? Publications are definitely not like required of you. Research is not even a hard requirement to apply to medical school. It really depends on what kind of medical school you want to go to. Some medical schools highly emphasize research experience, and so you might not have a publication, but you might have presented at a conference, you might have submitted an abstract. These are all experiences that are really valuable to your application that don't really constitute like a formal first author or whatever author publication. It's pretty rare at the undergraduate level for you to have like multiple publications unless you're interested in pursuing an MD PhD. Another thing that I didn't know is that clinical research versus like wet lab bench research or basic science research, those are all kind of synonyms, have very different sort of publication timelines. So for basic science, it can take years to have any research that is publishable, but for clinical research or dry research where you are working with like a patient database or doing statistical analysis at looking like the efficacy of an intervention on some specific clinical population, it's a lot easier to publish because you have that data already. If you want to do research, find research that interests you, find a good mentor who is going to support you. Those are much more important things. How to get clinical experience, especially during COVID? This is a great question, and you really kind of have to get creative. A program that I found in my, I think, senior year was a narrative medicine program where I interviewed patients remotely about their experience navigating the healthcare system. I talk more about this in my gap year video. Even during the pandemic, I think now things are kind of getting better now that we have access to vaccines, and so you might be able to find like a scribing position, but that kind of depends on your comfort level with working in a clinical space right now. All right, I think that's enough questions for now. Do you feel more connected to me? I'm gonna introduce you to my recent obsession. So I have this like punch needle, and it came in a kit that has this thing. So you put it through the needle, and this is gonna be used to pull the yarn through. Now I can pull it through the needle. This is called punch needling, and you'll see why it's called that. You just punch it through this cloth and then back and forth. This is like such a soothing hobby because my head is just empty when I'm doing this. This also surprisingly came up a few times while I was on the interview trail because people would just like ask me what I do for fun, and I'm a pretty creative person. I always like hobbies that have to do with like creating something and working with my hands. This is my third rug. I actually made one of my dog and it has his name on it, and I gave it to my mom for Mother's Day. And my first rug was a custom design of this like wolf, I guess. But yeah, it's a really cool way to decompress. I'm gonna work on doing more of like the onboarding modules, and then I'm probably gonna go to the gym and eat some sushi and then call it a day. It is time for me to go to the gym. Honestly, I'm gonna just wear the same shirt, but let's do a transition anyway. I got diamonds doing sissy slides in both ears. Dice rolling on the Las Vegas strip tonight. Slip that on and we might mystify. Fuck a night, I keep the wallet in my shorty bag. You know she wanna mine when she tattoo that ass. I'm a lover boy, she love the toys. Keep it coming, you a rider. This that roll myself a day and count my figure shit. This that stepping out, I feel like I'm that nigga shit. I drop 30 on this room, we ain't gon' sleep for shit. If I catch you knocking off, then it's gon' be some shit. Well, you can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spin what you wanna, be who you wanna. I'm so tired. It was really busy at the gym today. I'm back on the floor. I'm gonna end the video here. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment saying hello, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!